Hello, Mr.
Hey,
Doctor. How are we?
good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to let everyone know that Dr. Kirk Honda is. I was just telling people actually how we met, and I'm so glad that you are on the live today, and I'm so excited actually to talk about. It's been a while we haven't chatted really, so I'm really glad to have you. How are you doing, Doc?
Good. It's looks like it's sunny over there. It's sunny over here too. Usually isn't very sunny, but it's sunny today.
You know what? We are changing. The weather is changing right now. We're getting into autumn. So we went from summer to autumn, and this is one of the first days we had sun since autumn started. So I'm guessing it's you have brought some sun to us right now. Tell me a little bit more, Doctor, what's been happening with you? And I really wanted to dive in a few things, questions that we got from the audience. But I just want to let the audience know that when I reached out to you quickly, it was when I saw the analysis that you were making on the reality TV shows. I thought it was fascinating because you have a really great perspective on I guess this is your job too at the same time, but at the same time you have a great perspective on how to dissect the different situations, which I find fascinating. And there's a lot of things that you said you brought to that space, which was just very true. Hence the reason why I find it an honor to talk to you right now. And I think a lot of people here too will be very excited. I'm sure we will be having heaps of questions.
Yeah.
And now down the track, I'd like to dive in. If you've been watching the 90-Day Fiance of the lately, we'll dive in a little bit of that too, because we have Amira from 90-Day Fiance here right now, and she is a massive fan of you.
Oh,
But Doc, tell me a
that's
little
great.
bit about.
Good to meet you, Amira.
Doc, tell me a little bit more what you've been doing, what's been happening since that whole. It's blown up pretty much since you've been doing that.
Yeah. At first it was surprising and I thought it would just last for a week or something. But then as it sustained, I thought, well, this has always been my mission, was to bring academia and clinical work to the everyday person. There's often this huge gap between clinicians and the public. Not a lot of us go on YouTube or have podcasts. And for 13 years, I've had a podcast, and I found that a lot of people, there's a lot of voices out there, and some of it is great and some of it isn't so great. And I feel like clinicians need to weigh in on these issues as well.
Yeah, no, I love the way that, especially with each analysis that you've made on the show, I like your perspective on how you take it from a step of just trying to jump in and, say things just to throw it there, but you do take a step back. You try to analyze from every perspective and from every side of the thing, and which I find fascinating because the way you do it is very, you have a bigger picture of the situation. And I'm sure when if you have to dive in further, you will be able to actually dissect everything. But your perspective from the bigger picture is just, I feel, fascinating. Hence the reason why listening to you, it's very interesting because it helped me too. And without even, I think, you realizing, I didn't really share that with you. But it helped me too on different things that I was like, oh, there's something that actually, there's a truth there that he's saying. I should just, take that into consideration, which sometimes you don't see until someone picks it up and someone who understands it too at the same time. So,
well, it takes a mature, strong person to admit that, Ash. So I commend you for that. I myself, when I go to therapy and then someone points something out about me and I'm like, oh, really? Okay. And then it usually takes me a while. Probably half the time I just go into denial, but the other half the time I try to wrestle with it. So I think we can all relate to that for sure. I'm guessing it was multifaceted for you. I mean, just having the world watch you with Avery and all the comments, not just from me, millions of others. It must have been an interesting time. I know you and I talked about it in private, and just how surprised, that you were about that. But, you've taken it in stride, and so good for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Doc, I wanted to actually I think we have some questions that we got from the public. And 90 Day Fiance, different reality TV shows that we are seeing right now is all about relationship, is all about trying to create a meaningful connection, love, whatever we can call it. So a lot of people are struggling with relationship. A lot of people are trying to make their relationship work. A lot of people want to get into a relationship. And we do have a few questions that I want to present to you to just get your insight, get your expertise on how you feel is best to tackle those. And for the people that's listening right now too, they can get a better perspective of what they are doing already or what they should be doing, what they could do. And I think the first question will be around, I think I have all those questions. Give me 1 second, I'll just pull them out. The first question that we got was, and a few of them came from that perspective. What is the most important factor to a successful relationship?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a very important question for all of us. And there's a lot of things I could say, but I think the most concise answer would be that we all need to understand the loop between our primary emotions, our secondary emotions, our behavior, and how it affects other people, their primary emotions, their secondary emotions, their behavior. So for example, when someone comes home from work and they're in a bad mood and their spouse says, "Hey, how's it going?" And the person who just came home is like, "Ugh," and just goes off into the office and doesn't say much. So to the person who was at home, their first reaction is they're hurt. Mm-hmm. And unless we really know that we're hurt, we might transfer that into anger, and then we might yell at the person, "You're always such a jerk face," or I might distance because I'm hurt, and it makes sense to distance. And then whatever I do from that anger place, that hostile place, that's going to hurt the other person. And if they aren't aware of their hurt that is baseline, it'll transfer into anger and then hostility, and they'll do something back. Understanding that cycle, that vicious cycle of hurt, anger, hostility, hurt, anger, hostility, hurt, anger, hostility. Understanding that and owning your feelings, having compassion for the self of like, oh, that hurt my feelings. That's okay. It's normal to be hurt. How do I communicate that in a way that isn't hostile and isn't going to trigger the other person, gives the other person the opportunity to take care of me? You go to the person, say, when you came in, you're a little grumpy. It kind of hurt my feelings. I know I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm guessing you had a hard day, but it kind of hurt my feelings. And then the other person is like, "Oh yeah, I've had a hard day. Sorry." Because the other person doesn't feel accused. They don't feel defensive. They're not hurt. And understanding that is one of the best ways to improve one's relationship. A lot of what I do as a couples therapist has to do with some version of that.
Yeah. And that's, I'm guessing, like from that perspective, it's mainly the communication style, I'm guessing, from that, taking into consideration.
And it stems from an understanding of your emotions too, right?
Yeah.
It's not just what you say, but that is important, but it's also knowing your primary emotions. Because a lot of us don't even know that we're hurt when we are in pain, because we're so ashamed of ourselves. We want to be strong, and we don't want to feel that way. Maybe we've been shamed our entire life, and so we will act as though we're not hurt. I'm not hurt, I'm angry. I don't care, and that doesn't allow the self to take care of the self, and it doesn't allow you to communicate your feelings so other people can take care of you.
Yeah, I think that, and anger is an emotion that makes you more alive. So in that space, you just want to lash out, I'm guessing. So anger does make you more alive and makes you want to be heard. Well, you can't really get out of it. You just need to scream, and then you'll be heard for sure.
Yeah, we all do it. I do it. I'm pretty sure I saw you do it, Ash.
I've I've done it on public TV. But is it public TV? Yeah. Well, for everyone to see, I guess. So. Yeah. No, and you know what you said, that's something that's very interesting too from that standpoint. Do you feel we have inherited needlessly complicated ideas of what a relationship is supposed to be?
I think some of us, yeah. Rom-coms, influencers, idealization. If we weren't given a good example when we were growing up, for sure. It's hard, given all the information coming at us, for us to, it's like if you're confused and you're having a hard time in relationships, it's hard to, what am I supposed to be looking for? What am I supposed to be doing? You know, that can be really hard for sure.
Yeah, okay, I see. So I like that conversation because we are always thinking that, you know, the other person will come in. It will be this perfect merge of two people that person will embody everything that I want. And I like what you said right now, because this is where I think we create that problem ourselves. And that's where I guess having more clarity and communicating, as you said, is so crucial, because the more you communicate from an understanding of your emotion too, of how you're feeling in the moment, will really, I guess, clarify many misunderstandings that can arise in that moment. I really like that. Really insightful and deep. So I'm guessing from that perspective, from that question, then the lack of communication and understanding your emotion is primordial, is crucial. Perfect. Awesome. I like that. Then we have a second question, like right now, and that is really, I like the term healthy relationship, because we all have a certain perception or way of seeing what a healthy relationship is about. Especially nowadays with Instagram, with all the social media, a couple that we see, they look amazing, their body looks amazing, they look happy. And from a picture, they look so authentic. You're like, oh my gosh, so this is true happiness right now. And you perceive healthy relationship as that. From that question that I was going to ask, healthy relationships, how do they look like? And how should they look like, you think?
Amira, rom-com is a romantic comedy, yeah.
Exactly.
What should a healthy relationship look like? Well, I mean, I guess it's a repeat of my first answer a little bit, which is we're so frequently hurt by our partners, and we're so frequently inadvertently hurting our partners. And so a healthy relationship is, most of the time, not all the time, because it's impossible to be all the time. It'd be perfect if it was all the time, but the best we can really hope for is most of the time we are able to communicate about our hurt and give the other person a chance to say, oh, they're sorry, and they didn't mean to do that. But I guess more broadly, it's about getting our needs met, right? Our needs for companionship, love, sexuality, maybe, fun, creativity, support, having the sort of relationship, you know, some people really want to be heavily involved with each other, some people don't. Yeah. So I guess it's about, do you know your needs, and how does your partner fit into that?
I like that
need getting system that you have in your life, I suppose.
Yeah. I think I get it. So the need of each people should have a very, I guess, clear understanding of their need in that space. And I think sometimes just to be very vulnerable here, I did not really understand the importance of need until later, after a few relationships that failed. I really did not take into consideration my needs, and it was, and I thought I was doing the right thing, because you're thinking of doing for the other person, which is very noble, very, very nice. But then I did not have clear boundaries of what I need me. And when you say that right now, I feel like the need of each of us need to understand our needs. I'm guessing, which goes to the values that we have as people, and we need to be very comfortable and understanding of those values and needs that are not negotiable, should I say? Is that along the line you would say?
Yeah, for various reasons, we are taught that our needs don't matter, or that people only like us if we don't have needs, and or people don't care about our needs. And so we have to notice what our emotions are, and which are telling us what our needs are. And it's not a matter of always getting your needs met, but it's a matter of knowing it and knowing where your limits are and knowing how to ask. And really, your partner wants to meet your needs. It's a gift to give to someone else your neediness. It's like, hey, I need you. And, that really bonds people. Like, oh, you need me? I thought you didn't even really care about it. And it's a huge love message of, I don't need just anyone. I need you. Like, you're the one that I need this from. And it's a huge gift that you're giving someone. It's not a burden.
And there's no need to feel because someone said selfish. They feel selfish when I just picked up, I think must be Amira, when they feel the giving, they feel selfish. And I'm guessing that opens to the doors to different things. I feel. But it's not a point of being selfish right now. It's a point of realizing maybe more self-love, you would say, or yeah. So just understanding your own needs and being comfortable with them, without being.
There's a huge difference between selfish and self-acknowledging, right?
Yeah. Okay. It's self-appreciation too when you say this is self-acknowledging too. Yeah. Okay. I see. Awesome. Third question. There's 5. I just want to let you guys know there's 5. That jumped out. And the third one is, when do you know your relationship is truly? And I got that a lot, this question. And I feel like a lot of people were talking about it because of the pandemic. They were under lockdown for quite a while. And that question followed because of, most of them said on lockdown. When do you know the relationship is truly over? So what would you say to that? When do we know that?
Yeah. A lot of my clients have come to me with that very question, and have mulled it over for sometimes years. Early in my career, I had this general layperson notion that, like, you just sort of know when you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in my working with clients, particularly if you're in a long-term relationship, particularly if you're a little older, I think the decision, and especially if the partner isn't particularly problematic, if it's just kind of like you've just drifted apart, kind of, if there's not a huge complaint that you have about the person,
mm-hmm.
It becomes a very weird question because, there's this reality that sets in that's like, well, if I break up with this person, who's to say my next relationship is going to be any better? Maybe all relationships have problems.
Yeah.
So, so how do you know? I would say that the way that I usually explain it to clients is, for a lot of people, it's waking up every day and saying, yes, I want to be out of this relationship for some period of time. Because, some of us might have maybe a few days where we're like, I'm out of here. And then we change our mind, right?
Yeah.
So it's some kind of period of time where you're like, yeah, for the past 3 months, I've been pretty sure that I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And maybe I need to start taking this seriously. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking it seriously on day one. It's just a matter of the choices that you make. But I've seen most people will make that leap after there's amount of, and for some people, it's literally 5 years of them consistent. Maybe they have kids, they have a house together, and all their extended family is integrated, and the decision to break up is really a big one. And so it might take them 5 years to really know for sure that that's what they want to do.
And that comes from, I guess, there's cultural background too. There's different things that comes into play in those circumstances when you said it take that long. Because I'm thinking of people that I have a lot of friends who are Middle Eastern, even back home, Mauritius, because of the culture, as you said yourself when you said that it takes longer. For some people, because of the culture, they're trying to please everyone around rather than actually making sure that they are looking after themselves. And that's what I've experienced with a few people around me. And you brought up the fact that there's kids, there's the well-being of the family around them. So they put all that first before they put their own, I guess, feelings, happiness, etc. So yeah, that's very interesting you say that, because I think the time frame it may be relevant to what they are trying to fulfill from a space of, again, needs. What are their needs important, or are the needs of other people important? Yeah. Okay. I like that. Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. Okay. Cool. All right. So we'll go to the fourth question. This one was interesting because I really wanted to bring that up to you, because I found it very interesting that I got actually I got only one person asking that, which I wanted to actually bring up. And they were asking about an open relationship, and the question was, can having an open relationship save your marriage? Yeah.
Can having an open relationship save a marriage? Well, so it's kind of a loaded question. So I'll answer it in a few ways. One is that some people are oriented towards non-monogamy. You could consider it a sexual orientation of sorts, romantic orientation, where they just thrive in non-monogamous relationships. And the pros and the cons, they can get their needs met. And if they're with other people that are also into open relationships, then everyone wins. The same is true about monogamous people. I'm monogamous oriented, and my wife is too. And so the two of us fit really well together. We're both heterosexual, so we fit well together. Two non-monogamous polyamorous people, they fit really well together. So there's that. So if someone is in a relationship and they're like, wow, this isn't really working for me, I guess one possibility is that one or both people are actually polyamorously oriented, non-monogamous oriented, and they need an open relationship to, quote unquote, save the relationship, But the way that the question is asked, it's like, my relationship is suffering. I imagine someone where their relationship is suffering, and maybe one or both people are thinking about dating other people. And they're thinking, well, maybe polyamory is the answer. And it's like, well, maybe, but you have to know that you are actually polyamorous. You can't just say, maybe this would work, because if you're not like me, I'm monogamous. That would never save my marriage if I had a problem with it. That would not be the answer. So if someone wants to really explore that, they can read books and go to therapy with a poly-friendly therapist and explore that identity and that possibility. But if you're desperate for a relationship to be saved, that wouldn't be my first answer.
Makes sense. I'm guessing in the relationship, when both of them come together, say that, hey, we are open for a polyamorous relationship, that's when it's different, because both parties are happy to be in that open relationship. But in the space of, for example, that question, I'm guessing that the person that asked the question, they may not be in that space of wanting to be in one, but maybe the partner wants to explore that. And I feel like, yeah, I see what you mean. That can be a bit of a disaster if that.
Yeah, it's complicated. You know, some polyamorous people can be with monogamous people and they can make it work. So I'm not going to say that that always doesn't work, because it can.
Yeah.
But again, the way that's asked, it sounds like someone's like, my relationship is falling apart and I'm desperate. It's sort of like, well, having a baby saved my marriage, right?
Mm.
It's like, well, if you want to have a baby, then have a baby. But it's not, if that wasn't something you wanted to do originally, it's not, I wouldn't reach for it as a solution to, you know, the problem. What I would reach to for a solution is what I was talking about earlier in terms of your needs and communicating it and that kind of thing.
It all goes back to the same thing, the needs that are very important and how to communicate it. It's always that particular aspect of how to create that, to bridge between two people, to create that relationship, or should I say healthy relationship. Now that's really interesting. That was a question that I really was wanting to ask you too, because it is one of those questions that you don't really have a right or wrong answer. It's like, again, it's one of those things that it will pertain to the person, how they feel, how they are, how they take in the information. And when it happens, really physically, when it happens, again, that's another emotion that you have to process, digest. We can be talking about it. And then when they start doing it, that's another, I guess, phase, because it happened. Then you have to digest the information of what you like or what you dislike, which again can open up a total destruction of the relationship, or maybe, you know, the opening of, hey, this is something I like. Maybe we can explore it. I like what you said right now. Okay. The last question, and that is the fifth question that I have here, is how to save your relationship when it's on the brink of collapse. And again, that's a question that I received quite a bit on that form. And I think it's very similar to when do you know a relationship is truly over, to a certain degree. So do you have like any advice to save a relationship? I guess communication is one of them.
Well, the first thing I'll say is hire a professional.
Yeah.
There's a lot. The analogy I always say is, if you fall off the roof and break your arm, you don't like go on Twitter and say like, what do I do? You go to the hospital, you know. You don't sit around at home going like, why is my arm hurt? You seek out a professional. And when your relationship is suffering and you really want it, you really want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to preserve it. If that's interesting, if that's what you're interested in, then hire a professional. I mean, there's so many professionals out there who make it their living to help people with this. So that's number one. You know, there's so many reasons why relationships are quote unquote on the brink of ending. I guess I'll say two things. One I've already said, but one I guess I haven't. One is really knowing if you really want it, right? And that's often a question I ask of couples is, what percentage are you in this relationship? You know, are you 100%, 70%? You know, where are you? And for some people, that's a hard question to answer. You know, it takes them a long time to explore. No one ever asked me what I wanted. I didn't even know that was an option. So obviously knowing that. And then the second thing is, you know, the theme of the day is talking about your feelings, knowing your needs and communicating that, but that's complicated too. And that's why professionals can help. This very question, you know, as a marriage and family therapist, I get a lot of clients that have this kind of theme, the themes we've been talking about. And the way I've been saying it, it's kind of simple, but it's actually extremely complex. You know, there are couples or individuals I've worked with for years on these very questions. It's very complicated, you know. Our past traumas get involved, the way we were raised, all of our defenses. How do we see our future? Where are we in our life? Do we want kids? You know, there's so many different things that come into play. So I don't want to act like it's easy to make that choice and to know. But yeah. But I'll ask you that question. I mean, you help people with this sort of thing. What would you say to them?
Uh, well, I don't usually deal with a lot of couple, but I feel like when you said something very, very poignant, is some of them want to do the right thing in the relationship, but they have blind spots, and I think the blind spots comes from there's the use of term shadow that is there that they don't know how to deal with, and sometimes the partner triggers something that brings them back to that moment, and that's where I feel like you were going, and which is, you're right, extremely extremely deep, and very, there's a lot of work to do there. It's just not something that can be said, hey, that's fine, you'll be fine, you'll be cool, like he loves you, she loves you, everything will be sweet. But we internally, we've processed and stored information since we were child. And I think in moments that it just happens, I can relate to it because it happened to me too. It happened a few times to me when I thought that you move away from those challenges, and it's not until someone triggers them that you realize, like, oh geez, I haven't healed that, it's still there. And it's sometimes your own experiences, you think about it, you're like, oh, okay, I need to actually address that. Sometimes I don't want to address it, and there's a few of them I didn't want to address because I'm like, this is too much work. But then you put yourself in a deeper hole, because really you don't find any way out. You just get into another relationship that just turns out to be 2 times worse, or I won't say worse, but 2 times more painful, and that puts you 2 times deeper in the ground. So you brought a very, very good point, where it's not just the intention only right now, it's about the work that comes with that intention. And you're right, it's a very complex situation.
Yeah, when I was in college, I was 19 years old, and I had a friend who was in this really long-term relationship, and I remember asking him like how he makes it work, and he's like, well, and I thought he was going to say something like deep love and affection, and we're obsessed with each other. And he said, well, it's work. You gotta work at it.
Mm-hmm.
And and outwardly I was like, oh, interesting, but inwardly I was like, you're crazy. That's not love.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to work for love. There's something wrong with your relationship, pal. But I didn't say that
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to hurt his feelings. But years later, I discovered, oh, he discovered that early in life, and I was still in fantasy Disney world of uh, love is like the rom-coms.
Mm-hmm.
Love is, good relation. Everyone else on Instagram, they don't seem to be working hard. It just seems to happen,
Yeah.
and no one's like that. It's kind of one of the reasons why I became a therapist, was because I kind of wanted to learn, like, what are people really feeling? What's really happening for people, and because it's a confidential relationship, and as a secondary benefit for that, it sort of normalizes my own problems.
Yeah. No, and I think sometimes it's your own. I always believe that your biggest failures or your biggest void becomes your biggest virtues, or sometimes values. And where you've suffered the most, sometimes if you're able to find a way to heal it, those are the things that matters the most to you when you move forward in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
And it always feels better, when you are vulnerable and you give up trying to act tough
yeah, correct.
and admit that you're human. And when I feel it happens sometimes, where I'm in that rigid space, and then I make that change, and I open up, and I just let go of my need to be perfect, and I just tell someone, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm scared or whatever, or I'm ashamed or whatever, and I instantly feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, why didn't I do this earlier?
Yeah.
Because we're afraid. We've all been told that that we don't matter, that no one cares, and we're worried. But then we dip our toe in the water and it doesn't kill us, we're like, oh, okay.
It's fine. You can, yeah. I like what you said right now. It's a very vulnerable moment. And I like what you said when you shared, you've been there too, you've done that too. You know what it feels, you know how it looks like. And at the same time, you know what you don't want. And from that space, you're able to find ways to find a resolve, to heal it, so that you can find a solution to it, which I feel a lot of us, and I am one of them too. It took me a while to be able to come to terms with being vulnerable, because as you said, there's shame, there's guilt, there's different things. As Amira was saying before, she feels selfish to put her needs first. And again, what you brought up too is that there's a lot of work to do there. There's deeper work from, I guess, childhood, adulthood, of course, too, but there's deeper work there that actually has brought those feelings of emotion very, how do we call that, has ingrained those feelings in us, so we feel as such. So there's a lot of work to be done there, and I feel like this is the work that most of us are scared of doing. And I feel you've brought that up to fruition to such a point that it makes it very obvious that those are the things we need to address if we want to move forward. And
yeah, I like the way you put that. In a sense, we're at least in part, and some of us more than others, made to feel like we don't matter. And the solution is to focus on ourselves. But because we were told we don't matter, then we feel like we don't even deserve to work on it. So the relational trauma keeps us from addressing our relational trauma, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so you're scared of addressing them yourself. That's it. Yeah, and you brought it up again, being scared of it, and it's the fear. Okay, that's awesome. Doc, that was amazing. Those were the 5 questions we had, and I didn't think you would be going so deep in that conversation, but I'm so glad that it went that deep. Before we go forth, I want to ask anyone, because we are in the question phase, we will take only 2 questions, maybe from, if you're comfortable, of course, we'll take maybe 1 or 2 questions from the public. We'll just let 2 questions come, or even maybe 3 if we have time. You guys can just ask any questions you want, and we've got some interesting one here. Darcy and Dr. Honda would be amazing. Dr. Honda, what do you reckon of Darcy? Do you think you guys would be a good couple together?
Hold on a second. What was the question?
Darcy and Dr. Honda would be amazing.
What, like just me and Darcy talking?
Talking, or you actually, let me clarify that. Who asked that question? Let me see. NLW 242. Are you talking about talking or in a relationship? We'll wait for them to reply to us, but
I mean, it's just my journey with Darcy. So a year ago, I started watching reality television, the show that you were on.
Oh yeah.
And Darcy was on that season, right? And so people are like, you got to go back to the beginning. And so I was like, but there's so many episodes. It'll take me forever. But people are like, you got to do it. And I was like, and then my wife, we would go on these walks, and she's like, I really think you should go back to the beginning. It took me like a month to commit. I was like, okay. So I went back to the beginning, and you spend that much time with a human being, like I've spent a lot of time with you.
Yeah.
Even though, you haven't spent that much time. I've watched, all of the people here probably have spent a lot of time in your life. And I spent a lot of time in Darcy's life. And to talk with her would be multifaceted for me. In some ways, she seems like she doesn't really exist on the planet, that sort of celebrity far away. On the other hand, she's so human because she's so able to be vulnerable and real. And as a therapist, I'm always curious about one's past and where their defenses come from. So I'd be at least thinking about that, whether or not she'd want to talk about that. So yeah, that's my answer to that. Is it would be fascinating. I'd almost, similar to you and me, Ash, rather have those conversations not on the air, and so that I could just be free to ask the questions I wanted to out of curiosity, but also out of care. You know, I when I was watching you, I cared about you. I cared about Avery, still do. I care about Darcy, and would want to, I don't know, I guess see if I could help, which sounds funny to say, but I guess that is my wish.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate what you said right now and all the things, and especially that's why I like even your analysis when you do bring everything together and you put it in front of everyone. It's very fair. You break it down from the two perspectives, which I find very. That's your standpoint of how you bring the knowledge forth, is to not have one view of the situation, is always to break it down from both perspectives, which you do very, very well, and which I love about your work. And that's why I think a lot of people like what you do too.
Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure. So let me go back up. There was a question that came up. What do you... there was a question about a long-distance relationship, which was quite... if I find it again... okay, I'll just take this one. How do you try to make your partner understand that you no longer want to be in the relationship? Oof, that's, I think that would be a...
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot there. Like, one person is saying, I don't want to be with you, and the other person is refusing that answer and saying, we need to work on this, and really pursuing the person. You know, it makes sense. When someone proposes leaving us, and at least initially it's normal for someone to be like, wait, I don't think you're thinking about this quite right. We have something really great. Give me another chance. That's normal. And you just stick to your guns and say you're sorry and be with someone as they're sad. I mean, if you care about the person, you have those conversations, but you just keep telling them what you want and where your limit is.
Yeah.
Obviously getting support for yourself, having the person who's being broken up with, helping them to get support if you can. But if the question is being asked by someone who's being like stalked, for example, then it's a whole other. If you're being abused, if someone is being intimidating, then obviously that's a different answer. Of maybe even calling the police, but getting support for that is important. So yeah, I guess that's my answer.
No, that's really insightful. Okay. And that's a question that has a lot of, I guess, different aspects to it. There's so many different variables to it, to be able to just dive in to find the answer. That's true. There's another question here. There's actually not a bad one. How to become closer with the family of your partner? And why does my eye never blink? Because I have graves. I think I've just shut that down completely. There we go. How to become closer to the family of your partner? How would you approach that?
Yeah, this is often on the reality shows that I watch on YouTube a problem. One, because some people don't even consider that to be something that they're going to have to do. They want to be with the person and they don't want to deal with the in-laws. But in a lot of situations, that's not realistic. And so when you have, anyway, point is that something people should be thinking about, because that's the reality. It doesn't mean you have to do it. It just means it's likely going to be a factor. The other thing is, bonding. a lot of the problems that people have with in-laws, it's because the relationship didn't start off okay, and people were hurt in the same way we were talking about earlier. That like one example that's often portrayed on the reality shows is that the the single mom and the kid, the boy, the man who still lives at home, for example, and then a woman comes in and is with the boy man, if you will, and the mom is threatened by this new woman, and the woman is threatened by the mother-in-law. And the fact is everyone can get along, everyone can get their needs met. The mom can still have a wonderful relationship with her son. Her son can have a wonderful relationship with his new partner. The partner can have a wonderful relationship. Everyone can get along, but when people are hurt or suspicious, then they start going down a road. And then once you're triggered, then you're hurt and you're angry and you're hostile, and then that's when the hostility comes out, and then really bad things happen, obviously. And so that can happen on a smaller scale. And so what I recommend people do is one-on-one time. A lot of family time is group, right? And it's hard to bond under those circumstances. Particularly like important people in your spouse's life. If your partner is really involved with their parents, then I would, just spend time with the parents, just you. And that might sound absurd, that why would I do that? But it's an opportunity to have a wonderful relationship with your in-laws. I mean, it's a lot of people consider it like a bother. Oh, I got to deal with you. Think of it, if it's your life now, think of it as an opportunity to have another set of parents who will love you and support you, and you can hang out with and joke around with and do things with. Like, invite it in. Don't resist it, I guess.
Yeah. So I love how you brought that up right now. And I think not only the resisting part, but how to see them as another set of parents, which is, I think looking at it from that standpoint can help a lot from thinking that they're a separate entity as who you are, and just bring them in the circle of the family. And I think that's very powerful, because we don't look at it that way. We are always thinking that maybe they are against us, or the experience are around. Sometimes the in-laws are, they're just against me, and they don't try to.
And maybe they are in the beginning, maybe they are kind of suspicious of you, but that's because they care about the person that you care about. And if you are diplomatic enough, I think there might be some rough patches in the beginning, but I think if you dedicate yourself, then, or you can just go to the person and be like, I'm getting this vibe like you think I'm a threat, and I just want to tell you that I'm dedicated to your son or your daughter, or whomever, and I really want to do well by them. I realize that you don't know me, but I want to know. I want to get to know you. I want to get to know the family, and I'm just here to be that person. Instead of like, what did they say to me? And getting defensive because you're hurt and you're afraid, and then you transfer that into hostility.
Correct. I love that. Yeah. Doc, thank you so much. I would like to now, just if we have some time, just talk a little bit about the actual 90-Day Fiance that's been running lately. And we have Amira. I don't know if we still have Amira here. But what I know that, we'll open up with Amira and Andrew. How do you, I've seen a little bit. I have not seen the whole season, but I've actually seen bits and pieces, and it's been very interesting. I'm sure you have followed it quite thoroughly. What is your view on this new season yourself?
Wow. I mean, it's been quite a ride. Each storyline is such an interesting story. And, I've only been watching this show for the past year, so I don't know if it's a product of that every episode I'm just on the edge of my seat. You know, they edit it pretty well. And so yeah, it's been interesting. There's been some twists. I'm interested in all the people. I mean, some of the people seem like they're struggling more than others. But yeah, I wish the best for everyone. For, you know, it always, whenever I do these videos, including you, you were one of the, you know, you were in that first kind of cohort of people where I was like, wait, these people watch me on you know, like the cast members actually watch my video. Like, that is a terrifying prospect. And, you know, good for you for, you know, actually just reaching out and being like, hey, yeah. And so to think about Amira even watching, it's easier for me to do those videos if I don't ever think about the cast members watching. So, you know, for Amira and Andrew, and I obviously don't, Amira knows, because they, you know, the season right now is back in June or something of last year. And so Amira knows everything that happened forward, which I don't want to be spoiled, because I don't want to, you know, because I want to react authentically. Plus, it's an interesting show, and I want to see it unfold. So I don't know what happens. This is Amira's life we're talking about. It's not a TV show, and you know, it's her life, and a lot of things have happened. But what would I say to Amira right now? I guess I'm curious if Amira thinks that my speculations are even close to the mark. I'm curious about. I can't read the comments for some reason, so if she says anything, you're gonna have to tell me.
I will tell you, but
even if Amira is still here, you don't have to answer that question, Amira. But I am so curious if I'm even close. You know, if I'm completely wrong, I am totally cool with that. Just, you know, I don't have any. I'm not precious about my speculations. Is she still with us?
She is. I'm trying to. Amira, if you're here, just maybe just drop a comment. Jeremy, brother, how are you? Amira, if you're here, if you drop a comment, I'll just see if she's still here. I don't think she is, but
well, maybe she's not here. But I am. I'm always curious, because you know, again, I think I'm trying to be helpful. Yeah, in my, whether I am or I'm not. That is always my hope. Is if they do come across it, which is mortifying to me, I'm always like, you know, I hope that this helps. You know, I hope this isn't hurtful, and I hope that it helps.
Yeah,
it's always my hope.
Yeah. I've just watched a few of it. I've been in contact with Amira, with a few of them, and not only Amira, and it throws me back to just looking at it, watching it, and even talking to some of the cast members. It throws you back to that moment where you were living it, and from, you know, what I had to really understand is my own experience. I don't know if everyone is the same. But there was Ash TV and Ash Reality. And there's such a big difference between the two. And for a moment, there was that feeling of like there was a clash of two personalities that were coming forth, and I had to really pull back and you know, separate the two. I'm like, okay, that's Ash TV, and that's something that is to a certain degree different. There's similarities, but there's differences too. And then there's Ash Reality. That's pretty much the real person, and that I had to really separate those two, so that it does not come into a space of I'm questioning myself all the time. Because it was like, you know, at a certain point you start questioning. I'm like, oh shit, am I doing this? Am I doing that? You start questioning yourself. And I think the support was very important, because having people around you that could that knew you, had their support, that helped a lot to be able to just separate the two. And I think a lot of people were asking about how that Molly was actually, yeah, there we go. Molly just sent that question. Ash was Dr. Honda's hypothesis about your character rate, please. Yeah, so, and that's what I wanted to actually bring forth. What you saw on TV, his Dr. Kirk's analysis was very accurate to a lot of degree. I was like, wow, it's very true. So when I was looking at myself on TV, I was like, that's why I had to really separate the two, because you have an edited version of what the TV wants you to see. Mm-hmm. And from that perspective, I feel that's one of the reasons why Sienna said, I think I did tell you, my ex-wife is a clinical psychologist. So when she watched it, she listened to your analysis and she said herself, you know, you should contact me. It's great. And that's when I decided to contact you. And your analysis was on point. When I say Ash TV, your analysis was on point, and that was from what TLC portrayed. Your analysis was, I confirm that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's heavily edited, and as a person who works with actual human beings in my office, and I have the luxury of going back and forth, and there's a huge chasm between that, I don't know, assuredness in my analysis and watching a heavily edited television show that is clearly trying to put forth a narrative, you know, for certain people. So yeah, that's why I'm always saying, you know, this is total speculation. I'd have to ask them, who knows. So yeah. How did that feel? I know we've talked about this before, but how did it feel back then?
So I think it went through waves of emotions. At the beginning, it didn't settle in until later. So it felt, when I listened to you, I was like, wow, that's quite interesting. At that time, I was in a good space and I could differentiate the two. But then afterwards, as you know, there's as strong as I thought I was mentally, I don't think I was exposed to the public scrutiny sometimes. Well, not sometimes. I was not exposed to yet to that. And when it started coming in, I was like, wow, this is very different, because there's emotions like of shame, guilt, again, fear. Fear came, something was prominent, an emotion that I had for a good few months, because I didn't want to talk anymore. I didn't want to have clients. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to be on my own, because I was questioning my own identity at this point. I was like, oof, am I really that person? And because you don't think of the editing, you don't think of all those things. You just think, hey, this is playing. People are seeing that, and I believe what I see. And that was like, how do I differentiate? How do I pull myself out of that? So yeah, there was a wave of emotion until you become comfortable with, I guess, to a certain degree. When I say comfortable, there's different levels of comfort. But you become comfortable of the opinion of others. You're like, well, you know, there's people who will like, there's people who will dislike. And the idea is to be open to anything, because it is a choice to be on TV. It was a choice to get on reality TV. So that choice came with different opportunities and came with different struggles. And yeah, so it was all quite an experience of, it's a one in a lifetime experience that I don't think I will maybe want to relive. It's happened, and I was like, great.
If you could go back, would you do it again?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe not. Maybe, you know, differently. If I had to do it again, and if I didn't know about it, I would be more inquisitive and be more. I will try to understand what the show is about more, which I did not. I was very naive when I got into that show. I was not open to trying to learn about the show. I just was great. That Avery's coming. I'm going to meet her for the first time. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fun. It was more from a space of, let's have fun. But then I realized as the show went forth, then I realized that oof, it's not exactly that. It's a bit different. And afterwards, when you see the 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 play, when they air it, you're like, did I say this? Did I say that? Oh, and then you start realizing, I'm like, oh shit, I just wish I could go back in time right now and change this, change that, change that. So yeah, but the emotion was like, it was a wave. It was a wave.
Yeah, well, good for you for bouncing back. It takes a resilient, positive, wise eyes. You know, you have a wise point of view on it. Of well, you know, they had a version of me. Kind of, some of it was kind of real, but a lot of it wasn't. And there's a lot of hatred, but and you didn't. I'm using my words, not yours. But you know, live and learn, and
Yeah.
and you're continuing to try to bring goodness to people. You know, you're a very positive person. I mean, I think Avery even said this about you on the show, didn't she? That
Thank you.
you have a very positive vibe.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I questioned that positive vibe during the show, but yeah, it was a good thing. You know, sometimes I feel my challenge, just to be very open, my challenge has been always between two things, and I will verbally put it into words: purity and vanity. And I feel like I was always trying to, well, if I'm too vain, I'm not pure enough. If I'm too pure, I'm just not real enough. Or people will think that it's inauthentic. So it was always trying to fight between being that vanity and the purity. Where do I stand? And that was the challenge, I feel, for quite a long time, until I had to find a resolve to try to understand exactly where I stand in that space. But vanity and purity was two things that were always, I feel, for a long time, my challenge. And I still feel it is to a certain degree, but I'm more aware of it, which brings a new element to how I see it now. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
How did the show play a role in that?
How did the show play a role to bring that forth? Is from a point of you don't really know what triggers you until you're triggered. So when I was watching it again, there was what people didn't see is the moment of the great moments that we had. And there's moments of intense craziness, of course, but that's where the drama starts. When there's craziness, that's what you want to see. You don't want to see the fun part, etc. So when the moment of craziness happened, I had to, when I was watching it, which I had to watch with Strike Back, it really brought forth my triggers, and starting to really pinpoint, why did I get triggered here? And I started trying to, which was not very pleasant, and to try to understand what were the triggers here. Why did, when Avery said that, I got triggered? Why did, when this happened, I got triggered? So I started like really diving into that. And the process of this return brought me back to my identity and what my values are. And I became quite passionate about it. So even with my clients, I feel from that pain, from that challenge, it opened different opportunities that I'm very grateful for. Though I wish it was done in a different way, but I'm still grateful for how it was brought forth.
Yeah, and this is actually something that I do with people. Is it's rare, but they can record their fights
Oh
and
wow!
then listen back to it by themselves, because universally people will go, "That's what I sound like."
Mm,
Uh, I thought I was being nice, or I thought I was being balanced, but man, I'm being real aggressive in that moment. I'm being real. I have a real bad tone. You just went through it in the public sphere,
correct.
but we all could benefit from that. All of us can benefit from that process of watching the way that we fight and when we're triggered. Because in the moment, it feels like we're being normal, but when we listen back, we realize I'm not being. I'm obviously triggered in that moment. I didn't know that's how I was coming across.
Yeah. And that's where when you said that right now, I just remembered how irrational some situations were. And when the situation was the more the situation was irrational, the more I was triggered. What I perceive as being irrational, the more I was triggered, and that's where I guess I think a lot of people are like that too. Well, most of us would feel the same. As soon as they get triggered, it's from a place of irrationality that they are triggered, and emotion flies high, and they just react. And that was great because what you said right now is true. Just seeing the fight, and I was like, oof, when did that happen? You start questioning yourself. It's like, did I say that? Did I do that? Then you start really diving into what the core of the problem is rather than the surface of it. So yeah, no, that was your analysis again. I say it again. The analysis of Dr. Kirk Honda was on point when, from the perspective of Ash TV, he was very definitely on point. And that helped a lot to try to, from your how do you call that, your analysis, that brought me, the more I thought about it, that's what brought me to that balance between, trying to find the balance between being vain and purity. It's that opened that door to contemplate on those two dichotomies. So, well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, in somehow, some way, that opened a door that maybe I would have seen if I didn't hear you and I didn't watch the show again from your analysis too.
Yeah, it's takes a big person to let that in and to say, do I want, I mean, I don't know if this is what you're saying, but the way I'm interpreting it is like, do I want to try to sort of look a certain way? So, I guess it's this persona, or am I going to be pure and human and real and messy the way humans are? And, it takes a big person to do that. It's great.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. And there's a lot of what has transcended afterwards was, I think, I believe from my standpoint, you triggered something else while watching it with your analysis. You on the other side triggered something else that I was not willing to question until it was, until I didn't have a choice. I was put in a space where I didn't have a choice. I needed to attend to them. And yeah, I guess there's always a reason for everything. So I think it was maybe time for me to attend to them.
Yeah. Halfway across the world.
Exactly.
Two lives touch each other.
So as I was saying before, at the start of the life, since we met after connecting, it was like a love story. And I feel like it's been in a very different way, but in a very, very interesting way that it turned out to be that we connected today. And I was able to have you here, and we were talking about the show, about relationship, and about everything. So, Doctor, thank you so much, so much. I won't take too much of your time again. It's been a while. We've been talking more than 1 hour.
Yeah, it's been great. I almost forgot that we were on live. I'm like, oh, that's right. We're public right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doc, for taking time and even. And I want to say, what I'll do too is, if anyone wants to work with Dr. Kirk Honda, I know you're extremely busy. From what I remember, we had a chat a while ago. You were extremely busy. So if you're lucky enough if those people are lucky enough to be able to get through you, where would they contact you, find you, and?
My practice has been full for years, so that I wouldn't go down that road. But if you want to check me out on YouTube,
perfect.
You could check it out.
What I'll do is when I post that video, I send. You have your. What's the name of your YouTube channel again? I did too.
Psychology in Seattle.
Perfect. So I'll put the link there for you guys to check it out, and also I'll put the link of Dr. Kirk Honda's Instagram page. And I think you're active on your Instagram page. So I'll put those there. So
mainly pictures of my dogs and cats.
Even better.
That's pretty much all that I post.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Doc. That was amazing. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Again, guys, I'll put everything on my post. So there's Dr. Kirk's YouTube channel that you should check out. It's amazing. And yeah, comment as much as you can on that channel. Okay, guys. Doc, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.